Peace and Black Power, family. Chauncey, aka Ukarema, great man of God media, right back at you again with another GMOGmedia spotlight. All right, just to start off, happy holidays, everybody listening. I know all the so-called holidays just passed. Whether you celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever the case may be, happy holidays to everybody listening. And have a great upcoming new year. Celebrate whatever you want to do. Spend time with your family. Go out on the town or whatever. Have a prosperous new year, New Year's Eve and upcoming 2016. With 2016, you definitely want to, as the saying goes, drop your old habits and gain new habits, for the new year. So, happy New Year to everybody listening. And I'm going to go in with the topic, which is I'm going to be discussing why the Black conscious community is powerless. All right. So let's go right in with the subject matter. All right. So I want to talk about the conscious community, particularly Black people in the conscious community. All right. So if you go back on my old YouTube channel, GMOGMedia, you see some of the things I've done in the conscious community. Right. I've interviewed Dr. Umar Johnson. I've interviewed and spoken with people like Dr. Kava Kabane, aka Booker T. Coleman. I've spoken and interviewed people like Minister Inky. People like Tahuti Vuai, who is a great Black neuropsychologist that you guys should check out. But I've done a lot of things. I've done think tanks, community think tanks. I've done lectures. I've done panel discussions. Just go back on my old YouTube channel, GMOGMedia. You'll see all that stuff there. Ever since I've obtained knowledge of self and gotten out of the belief system of the Eurocentric, way of religion, and just got more into the truth, which is going back to the continent of Africa. That's where everything starts. So you can go back into my YouTube channel, you see what I've been doing. I've done Hidden Colors 3 premieres. I've done Urban Kryptonite premieres. Like I said, panel discussions, you name it, so on and so forth. So I played my part as far as doing things to empower myself and empower my community, right? I'm doing those things. I'm playing my part. Now, what I'm talking about today is the conscious community being powerless, right? Because once again, we live in a system of white supremacy. We live in a system of racism, white supremacy. So that trumps everything we do. So you have a brother that comes across, a book about Morocco, learns about being a Moor, starts reading, the Black's Law dictionaries, John Bouvier and stuff like that, and says, I'm not Black, I'm a Moor. He obtains knowledge. Knock yourself out. That's great. You got a brother that reads a couple of books by Theophilo Banga, and learns about, Nile Valley history and stuff like that, becomes very privy to ancient Kemetic, ancient Egypt knowledge. More power to you. That's great. You got a guy that goes even deeper into the Bible, becomes a Hebrew Israelite and, is able to quote Bible scriptures, read so-called, languages in the Tanakh and the Torah and all that stuff. More power to you, so on and so forth. There's so many different ideologies in the conscious community, and let's define the conscious community. My definition of the conscious community is basically simple. It's a group of Black people who obtain information and knowledge of things that the average person is not privy to. That's all it is. It's just a bunch of Black people who know certain things that the average person doesn't know. That's a basic definition that I can get more in detailed, but I would say that's a basic definition of the so-called conscious community, right? So with this particular subject matter is because I want to talk about the conscious community specifically because of the amount of things I have observed over the past, I wouldn't even say a couple of weeks, few months, this year as a whole, 2015, it's really been prevalent as to what is going on with the conscious community and why things have gotten worse for Black people collectively, even though we got all this knowledge, right? But tangibly, the knowledge has not done anything to help liberate Black people. And you can blame it on a whole bunch of different things, right? But the one thing that you can definitely point to is, once again, the system of racism, white supremacy. Now you got people who even sell, quote unquote, try to sell you on or use white supremacy as a hustle to, sell their books or sell their DVDs or sell their intellectual property, right? And you say, I have the remedy for getting Black people out of debt, status correction, stuff like that, right? And shout out to people like In the Black Radio, Oh God, and Solar Mind. I think they're from Philadelphia. Shout out to them. I listen to their broadcast from time to time, and they like to go in on certain individuals in the conscious community, like Sonetta TV. And even shout out to Sonetta TV, because I appreciate the information that he disseminates amongst the people. He has a wide variety of people on his platform to talk about different things, and what I take from it is edutainment. It's entertainment and it's educating at the same time. Does it collectively help Black people as a whole change the condition of where we're at today by replacing racism, white supremacy with a system of justice? Absolutely not. Right. But it is edutainment, and it's definitely a great parallel from watching the Eurocentric television programs that are on regular network and free TV. So Sonetta does a good job of providing content. His content is something that is vast, diverse when it comes to different people, but they all have different agendas. And people who have agendas have to be called out. And that's what people like In the Black Radio, even myself, want to talk about. We want to talk about different individuals who have agendas to propagate for themselves, but they sell wolf tickets by saying, well, I can get you out of debt. I can help you fight against white supremacy if you get my book, or if you pay a certain amount of money for this so-called status correction, right? And speaking of status correction, you got guys like Brother Polite, who has been a staple in the conscious community for the past few years. His popularity has grown tremendously. And you would say that he's kind of like a household name within the conscious community, right? And, the brother is definitely very intelligent, obviously well-spoken. His lexicon and his vocabulary is well-diverse. So, much props for him for that. And he has certain things that I definitely agree with on certain topics, right? But again, when you have people who talk about certain things and they try to sell you on the things that, they provide a service or whatever the case may be, do your research if you don't know what they're talking about, right? Before you shell out money for their services. There's been stories, there's been stories about Brother Polite, taking $17,000 from a guy, and reportedly he's gotten the money back, allegedly. Things of that nature. Like I said, do your research before you shell out any kind of money for someone that does not have a proven track record of what he's trying to provide for the community. And I talked about this before on In the Black Radio's platform on Blog Talk, where they were talking about Brother Polite and what he does, with the services and things of that nature. And one of the things that he was selling is what's called status correction. And I called in on the show and I broke down that status correction is an oxymoron, especially for Black people. Status correction really is a straw man way of quote unquote correcting your status in the wilderness of North America, the United States. And, status correction does not work. It's never been proven to work. And you shelling out that much money for status correction, I would say, again, you should have done your research before you shelled out that money. But again, with myself, I have a background of real estate, and I understand how that works on the back end. So again, when you're selling products that have not been proven to work, you need to do research before you go in on and pay for those services. And the same can be said for sovereignty. I've seen people try to sell information about sovereignty and changing your actual citizenship, to become a Moor and then having a sovereignty status. Let me tell you something. There are people who the race soldiers will pull you over. They don't care if you're a Moor. They don't care if you're ancient Kemetic. They don't care if you're a so-called Nuwapian, 5%er, whatever kind of ideology you claim. They're going to see you as Black and they're going to arrest you, okay, for whatever reason that they see fit, okay? Because again, we live in a system of white supremacy, and that trumps everything. No matter what kind of ideology you study, it trumps everything. So, the so-called sovereignty stuff, it's a fraud. I can prove that also. And just be on the lookout for things that you're not privy to. It's just that simple, And also, what I want to talk about is another thing that makes the conscious community powerless collectively is the fact that, I not talked about this before in my other vlogs. You have Dr. Umar Johnson, who is raising funds to purchase a historically Black college and university out in Lawrenceville, Virginia, St. Paul's College. He's been raising money for the past couple of years, right? And if you go on his GoFundMe page right now, okay, he has raised over $240,000. Now, he's also gotten donations offline, meaning the people who just write him checks and send them to his P.O. box. Collectively right now, he's raised over $500,000, right? But look at the numbers. If you go to his GoFundMe page right now, currently, he's raised $241,842. Okay, over 6,000 people have pledged for or made a pledge to donate to the school, right? So let's say, okay, 6,000 people, right? Let's say that Dr. Umar Johnson has a fan base of 50,000 people, and I'm just being, I know that's well below that. I know Dr. Umar Johnson has, I would say, at least over 150,000 people know who Dr. Umar Johnson is and follow him. But I'm just saying, on a minimum, 50,000 people know and follow Dr. Umar Johnson, right? So let's say 50,000 people pledge to donate at least $5 to his school. If that was the case, he would have the school overnight. Okay. There's no reason for this man to be raising funds for more than 2 years and he's only at $500K. That makes no sense. I mean, we're spending money on so many other things outside of our own community. We don't practice group economics. Black people collectively, we spend money outside of our community first before we spend within ourselves or that will benefit us as a group collectively. So there's no reason for this man to be raising money for 2+ years and he's barely raised 500,000 for a school that he's trying to raise money $4 million. So if 50,000 people right, pledged $5, he would have $5 million overnight. He will be $1 million over his $4 million budget to purchase the school. The school is worth $2.8 million, but obviously he needs the rest of the money for overhead costs, things of that nature. And that adds up, But again, that's another reason why the conscious community is powerless, because we don't practice what we preach. We're not doing anything tangible to help eliminate and solve the situation that we're in, which is systematic racism, white supremacy. And again, we live in a system of white supremacy, but also a capitalistic society. So everything, whatever you do, all these lectures and DVDs, it costs money, and you're selling them. That's fine, right? You can do that. You have to pay your bills. I get that. But is it something tangible where people can actually use it to help resolve situations like the Tamir Rice case, where the grand jury just basically said the young boy who was unarmed carrying a toy gun was justifiably shot and killed by a race soldier? The studying ancient Kemet and studying, old books about Egypt and doing lectures about religion, is that helping that cause? Right? I mean, it's doing things like, having debates on, just random topics about religion and history and things of that nature. Is that going to help you legislate a new bill to be passed to protect black people collectively as a whole? Are we doing that? Right. I mean, it's a question that's obviously a rhetorical question, and that answer is no. So, again, it's same could be said, because the conscious community is a niche group. It's a very small group, right? But this small group of people obviously have a lot of knowledge, which I benefited from also, because I learned a lot from people. Like I said, I've met and interviewed Dr. Kaba Kabane, Dr. Umar Johnson, Minister Inky. I've done panel discussions of people in South Florida who know a lot of things and things of that nature. And I gained a lot of knowledge over the last couple of years. But again, has this helped out our situation collectively as a group for black people? Has it changed our condition? Right? Absolutely not. And again, that's another way that the conscious community is powerless, because there's nothing tangible that they are doing to help change the condition of black people. Nothing at all. For me, I can say this. Like I said, I played my part. You go on my YouTube channel, you can see all the things I've done in the community, even my nonprofit organization. We've just done an annual toy drive for people who are in need, at the Cornelia Worship Center and Village. Done a toy drive, done a Thanksgiving food drive, handing out turkeys to empower people, especially people who are in need. You know what I'm saying? And when you see things that, especially for myself, when you see things that you critiquing and you say that's not right, it's not helping us collectively as a group, what I do is I do a parallel. I say, well, everything I'm talking about in this vlog, I'm going to correct that by doing it myself. See, I'm not a person that just likes to sit and complain about it. I'm going to do something about it. So if I see, like I say in this vlog, if I see people talking about, doing lectures about religion and history, that's cool. And I say they should be doing X, Y, and Z. Well, I'm going to do that X, Y, and Z, right? So 2016, I'm going to plan on garnering up more black people to register to vote. That's the most important thing. One of the most important things that we need to do to help us get out of this situation, because if we had more registered black voters, we wouldn't have situations where we would have a grand jury who is classified as non-black to say that the killing of Tamir Rice was justified. We wouldn't have these issues with Sandra Bland, where the killing and the murder of Sandra Bland was justified. Okay? So one of the things I'm going to do in 2016 is definitely garner up a service where I'm going to get more black people to register to vote. And I'm going to focus more on the youth, but also people who have criminal records, and try to help them expunge their record, especially in the state of Florida, and get their records removed so they can register to vote and be a part of the so-called justice system process. Okay? Because again, like I said, one of the selection processes in being a jury or juror is you have to be a registered voter. All right. So that's one of the things I'm going to do, because that's something tangible where you will see results over time. All right. So like I said, I do critiquing, but I'm going to practice what I preach. I'm actually going to do what I see that's where other people are lacking. And that's what I do on my channel. And you'll see it once I post the information up later on throughout the year. So we have to be a part of the political process. We have to be more astute as far as how the political process goes. As I mentioned before in my other vlogs where I talk about why black people are political pawns, we need to start a super PAC. We need to start more. Now I understand there's just a handful of less than a handful of black super PACs, but we need more. Okay. And we also need to be tied into our local government. Okay. So when we talk about your local elected officials, we need to have more of a communication and a financial tithe to these elected officials. And what do I mean by that? Well, with the super PACs, right? As I said before, super PACs are just an independent political action that is able to raise unlimited amounts of money for a political campaign, a corporation, a union, etc., right? We need black funded super PACs, and it starts on a local level. So we need to practice group economics once again, get a bunch of like-minded black people who want to be a part of the political process, and then once you do that, you can help establish a local elected official, right? A black local elected official, and have an agenda or list of demands on the local level, right? Once you have those funds, present the agenda to that local elected official, right? With the funds in hand, and say, hey, we need X, Y, and Z done. You do that, we'll contribute this amount of money to your campaign, right? It's just that simple. So we need more of that. Okay. And that's another thing I'm going to be doing and focusing on in 2016 is I'm going to just have more black people engaged in the political process, because it starts on the local level. Everybody who's listening, okay, if you want to empower yourself, start on the local level by becoming a part of your local government. Okay, you got to empower yourself first. After you empower yourself first, be a part of the political process by starting with your own local government. All right. You got to be more engaged with your own local government. All right. And so, yeah, I mean, again, if we don't start doing things like that on a local level, it's going to get worse and worse and worse collectively for black people. You know, the race soldiers are going to continue to get away with legalized homicides for unarmed black men, women, and children. And it's going to continue unless we start first on a political level locally. All right. We have to get more people involved in the political process. And it's just that simple. It starts with economics. It starts with politics. Starts on those two levels out of the 9 areas of activity. But those 2 levels first, we need to attack first and address first. And that's what we need to focus on 2016. Okay. And I'm talking about the conscious community, but this affects any kind of group of black people who have different ideologies in general. Okay. Because again, we live in a system of white supremacy. Okay. So again, I say the conscious community is powerless. Those are facts. Any kind of ideology of black people that have certain, information about things, that's cool, right? That's all fine and dandy. But at the end of the day, racism, white supremacy trumps everything. Okay. Because they are getting away with all kinds of erroneous murders, homicides, you name it. They're getting away with it on a daily basis, and there's nothing that we can do about it right now. We're at just an all-time low on everything, on all 9 areas of activity. All right, family. So once again, that's what I wanted to talk about. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe. Once again, Happy New Year to everybody listening. See you guys next year. Like I said, I'm going to be providing content consistently on a weekly basis. So, as they say, Rome wasn't built overnight. Okay. And I've been providing my content consistently for the past few months. So I'm building up my audience. The word's going to get out, and it takes time, but I'm going to continue to do and provide you content and material that's going to help liberate black people from our system, which is systematic racism, white supremacy. All right, family. Chauncey, aka Ukarema, Great Man of God Media, signing out. Peace and Black Power.